One of the benefits of that new I-95 ramp is better traffic flow, and that should be a benefit to Newcastle County, which is a clever segue to get to our first person this week, Newcastle County Executive Paul Clark. Welcome to First.
Glad to be here.
You know, you've been part of County Council in Newcastle County for, gosh, let me do the math, since 2004.
6 years.
And then county executive since Senator Chris Coons left back in 2010.
Right.
You've seen the county in a growth period. We are now kind of in this economic slump. What is the state of the county?
Well, the county's fiscal health, because of the decisions that were made when Chris was there and decisions I've made, is actually pretty good. We still have a reserve. For the first time in the last budget we put through is the first budget that actually only spends what we bring in. So we were using no reserves, there was no tax increases. We just went a round of new contracts, and I want to thank our employees. There was concessions given, and I believe we put ourselves into a situation that as long as this doesn't go on for too long, we'll be in good shape and still be able to give great services to the citizens of Newcastle County.
Mm-hmm. Your last budget, no taxes.
And no use of reserves, which has been done for the last almost 10 years.
But we've got this looming black cloud hanging over us, and that federal dollars are going to be dissipating. Yes. Will we be dipping into the reserves to compensate for that? Well,
we're hoping that sanity takes place in Washington. We have about 37 employees that provide services in the housing, and especially in the housing areas for low-income people, that would be jeopardized. One of the reasons I've tried to make sure we still have a reserve, so if those funds go away, we have a chance to transition through that period, so that whatever services we can still give to some of the people that need it the most, we'll be able to do.
And the housing initiative that you just mentioned, give me some details on that.
Well, the federal funds come in. We are the monitoring and agency that gives out the Section 8 grants for people who have subsidized housing. But there has been several federal programs come through where we were able to go out and buy houses that are foreclosed upon, that are really not in very good shape. We then rehab them and get them back onto the market with a deserving family. So one, it puts an affordable family that may not be able to have a house anywhere else in a home and stabilizes that whole maybe block and community. It's really been a win-win program, and I would hope that, like I said, sanity would come through and that program would maintain. But we're prepared to transition if that happens in a very professional and slow manner. And that's one of the reasons why it's nice to have a few dollars in the bank.
Mm-hmm. So the initiative will still happen, but albeit at a slower pace, assuming things in Washington.
And again, obviously, if those federal funds, there will not be as many houses bought or many communities stabilized.
Okay, let's talk about foreclosures. Newcastle County certainly not exempt from being hit from what's going on with the housing market. What can the county do to help individuals, or is this a state matter?
It really is a state and federal matter. Our sheriff, which is a separate elected office that's part of Newcastle County, unfortunately is the one who has to handle these and have the hearings and have the sheriff's sales. But, you know, we're there to do anything we can. Like I said, any federal funds and state funds that come through that we can administer, we're there to do that. But unfortunately, it really is, for most cases, people not able to pay their mortgage payments, which is sort of a private matter, and only the federal government really has the funding to help them.
And aside from foreclosures being sad because people are losing their homes, it's a loss of tax revenue, and that's a problem.
More important, it destabilizes neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the saddest thing. You know, Newcastle County, the average person in Newcastle County only pays about $500 a year in county taxes. Most of their tax bill is school tax. Now again, that hurts too if they're not paying that. But as far as our thing, if you know, that we're not dependent on that to make it every day. You know, we miss it. But more important, a family is now, you know, it isn't just a house. It's a family out of their home, and a destabilization of a neighborhood, because that house doesn't usually get back on the market very quickly.
Do you keep in touch with Senator Coons pretty often, or?
You know, Delaware's a great place. You know, there's probably 3 events, charitable events a week or something, where the whole delegation's sitting there. Mm-hmm. Somebody said one time, well, you know, you want to go to Washington and meet? I said, I see them probably tonight for dinner. I probably see the senators and Congressman Carney more than I do my own wife for dinner. So
Well, there are plenty of programs that the county is putting forward, you know, in spite of everything.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, the county libraries and expansion.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Well, a few years ago, Chris Coons, as county exec, there was a tax increase to bring us back up to where we were years ago, and we were pretty stable. There was a promise made, and I believe I need to keep that promise, that we would give services across Newcastle County equal. So you have an area like Claymont that has had a little dinky library, 7,000 square feet for years, and it was time for them in the cycle to go. Now, a library is funded with state money, county money, and then the local Friends group brings money to the table. So all those have to take place, and they need to be in a cycle, like they need to be on the budget for years ahead. So this is the time for that. Now, it may have been easy to cancel that project. I think that would have been unfair to those people. But two, we also bond that money. So that money is going to be paid by the citizens for 30 years. It's also a great time for government to do some projects. The bids are coming in way lower than we ever expected. So we're putting people to work. There's people out there that would not be working if we weren't building this library. We're doing it with future money, and we're getting a price that's much lower than we hoped to. So it's a win all the way around, and I think it's going to be a great asset to that community.
There are also some sewer and water projects going on. I'm assuming that means additional jobs as well.
We only do the sewer. The water is a private entity in Newcastle County. But for years, our sewer system is aged, especially in the Brandywine 100 area. And in some cases, there's still clay pipes in the ground. Imagine how old that is. So we've been going in and rehabbing this, partly because the EPA and DNREC require better, higher quality standards. So we're actually redoing the sewer system, which brings more jobs. It's coming, you know, and again, we're getting great prices. So it's a good time to do that. But it's also probably the time to do it from a health and environmental reasons. Okay. Some pipe isn't even there. It's rotted.
So this is a good thing overall.
So the good news is in that Brandywine 100, it's clay soil. Yeah. So there's some stabilization. But there are times where it really, really needed to be done years ago, and we're doing it now.
Base realignment, you know, all of that, right? All of that was going on. And while the process was in the works, Newcastle County kind of made a pitch saying to a lot of these military families who were coming out there saying, look, Newcastle County, convenient, close location. How did that work out? And
we use the line, it's a great place to live, work, and raise your family. And we did get 200 families. So that was 200 homes that were filled that maybe wouldn't have been sold or marketed. That was one of the highest counties when you look at where Aberdeen is and you can go all the way down to Baltimore and around. We did pretty well. The other hope is the next round is when the adjoining or associated businesses come to work with BRAC. They have a lot of contractors. Hopefully we can get some of those, especially with the new facility being built at the old Chrysler plant at the University of Delaware property. It'd be sort of a high-tech thing, and some of those jobs would be related to that. So we think it was, you know, could have been better. Yeah, could have got everybody to come live in Newcastle County. But it was a reasonable amount of people considering the move. A lot of those people chose not to move.
Are there steps that the county is taking or has taken already to draw some of these accompanying businesses?
We work with the county chamber and the state DEDO, Department of Economic Development, to reach out and show some of the benefits of Newcastle County. You know, obviously we have a very low tax rate. We have great infrastructure. We have adjoining businesses that have been very successful, and that always was a pitch, Gore, DuPont, you know, all those types of things. And we, you know, as the governor always says, that when they brought the Fisker plant here, the president of Fisker basically said, gee, you can get all these people together to make a decision quicker than I get my family out to dinner. And I think that's one of the things that's great about Delaware, and we're willing to participate very strongly with the governor and Secretary Levin on trying to be there as quickly as possible, and that's our advantage.
One thing I was noticing yesterday, I went out to lunch in the Loma district in Wilmington. And Newcastle County is so large, it feels like everything is a different county, even though we're all encompassed within the county. Do you get that much, or do you hear
Newcastle County, you know, is broad, and it's very diverse. You know, Townsend is certainly not Wilmington or Brandywine 100, and that's the whole range of Newcastle County. I remember a reporter asking me one time, where's Bear? They were doing an article, and I said, nobody from Delaware cares where Bear is. They want to know what high school you went to. And it really is adjoining neighborhoods that make up sort of a patchwork of a very nice place to live and a very diverse place. So you have the benefit of, you can live in the city, You can live rurally below the canal on a farm. It's kind of a neat thing, and I've been here all my life. I really like Newcastle County, and I think the diversity and the neat things about each little place being different is kind of cool.
Let's talk politics. The man who replaced you as county president was Republican Tom Kovac. This was sort of, you know, a best example of, quote, you know, the Delaware way of bipartisan politics working together to get things accomplished. How is he doing in your mind, and how did you take the news when hearing that he's, you know, going to run for another office a year later?
Well, I kind of thought possibly he wouldn't like. County government's very unique. You either got to like it. It is hands-on service. You know, sewers and libraries and police and things, and many people come and it isn't really their cup of tea, maybe. So it didn't surprise me that he would want to move on. You know, it was sort of an opportune situation where it was a special election, and that he chose to go that way. And I'm glad he's going to get some experience in county government. As he moves on, we'll see what happens.
So it's the county, on the county level, not his cup of tea, in other words.
My impression. I'm not going to speak for him, but you know, if it was really exciting him, he would want to stay, I guess.
Thank you so much, Paul Clark, Newcastle County Executive, for being our first person
My
this
pleasure.
week.